Colin Bean, Wigan man. That was him. Oh, you're probably saying to yourselves, but surely he was from London. Well, he did live in London for quite some time, it's true, but Colin was always very, very firmly a Wigan man. He would describe himself in the terms of the Wigan motto, ancient and loyal. He would describe himself like that even before he was ancient. In 2009, Colin would have been in his 84th year when, in theatre parlance, he took his final curtain call. Colin always said that he hoped that when he took his final curtain call, he would be breaking a contract. That is to say, he was in work, which is a very desirable state for any actor to want to be in. And in fact, he did break a contract, because right up to a few weeks before he died, he was helping with the promotion of a CD of children's stories which he'd recorded when he was helping with the hospital broadcasting service in his beloved borough of Wigan. Yes, not a London recording studio, but Wigan. Wigan, Wrightington, Lee, Atherley, Billinge and all the hospitals round would benefit from what Colin did. So, what about Colin Bean, Wigan man? Well, I'll tell you. Better still, I'll show you. Let's take a walk round Wigan. It's only 125 miles from here. I'm in the East Riding of Yorkshire. It's where I live. Would you like to join me? I'll meet you in Wigan. Well, here we are in Wigan, and Dickinson Street, a good place to start. Dickinson Street was Colin's family home. From being a youngster until he was well into his 60s, when he moved to Brookhouse Flats, Warrington Lane, still in Wigan of course. Though prior to 122 Dickinson Street, he'd lived some of his young life in Park Road, Kenyon Road and Hornby Street. In the December issue of that year, I was to meet and interview Colin Bean for our Wigan profile feature. It was at a late summer 1973 Arts Festival event here in the park that we gave the Wigan public the first glimpse of Bridgman Productions, the partnership which Colin and I formed. This included a photographic display of our patrons, who were Dame Sybil Thorndike, Dame Thora Hurd, Dame Glenda Jackson, Mr. Arthur Lowe and Mr. John Le Measurer. An impressive lineup, and all of them glad to offer their support because they knew Colin and admired his dream to have professional live theatre in Wigan. Before that, it was the Thomas Lineker School. Now then, in 1974, it got itself a theatre. It was called the Lineker Theatre, and Colin and myself, in the production of Aladdin, were the first company to go in there. Colin played Widow Twankey and I was Ebenezer and wrote the script. A Christmas Story musical. Colin directed it. It had its world premiere at the Lineker Theatre, and Colin also played the part of the innkeeper and was heard on stage singing along with Jim Marsh, who played Joseph, this song, No Room at the Inn.
There's no room at the inn, just no room at the inn. The hotel's full, there's no more space. I'd like to help you, son, but I ain't got a place.
It's no use. I'll have to get an engine for this thing. It's wearing me out, you know. Besides which, it isn't a lot of good. I can't collect much laundry in it. There's only one thing to do with that, Charlie. Take it for more MOT. More old tyres. Do you know, I think the man who sold that thing to me, he diddled me. He did? Yes. He told me that that vehicle had 14 wheels. Yes, 14. He said the front wheels were 4 wheels. There were 2 wheels at the back, 1 wheel on each corner and 2 on each side. I mean, fancy. Fancy taking advantage of a poor old widow.
Indeed.
Oh, you are.
A great deal of Charles Dickens' work is almost autobiographical. Born in 1812, the year of Napoleon's retreat from Moscow, when George IV was still Prince Regent, Dickens lived through the days of stagecoaches and sailing ships and saw the development of many of the then wonders of the industrial age. By the time he died, in June of 1870, Queen Victoria had already reigned for 33 of her 60 years.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not.
He was always a staunch supporter of the hospital broadcasting service, and every Sunday morning he'd be up there at the studios, which were located within the Wrightington Hospital grounds. He'd be there to help present the Sunday morning programme. At the controls and hosting the show would be John Roy Mather.
Picture was taken for the benefit of the local press, and I might tell you, when we got the dough back to the office, the following morning it was climbing up the filing cabinet. The Wigan Little Theatre, Wigan's premier amateur theatre venue. Colin was one of its founding members back in the distant past, and would give recitals in the bar to help raise funds.
When Jemmy Warburton retired, he bought a bungalow with a lovely view at Pennines to the side of Clitheroe. Wife out at terraced house they'd left has opened onto the street where all they had outside back door were 48 square feet of corporation flags, a midden, 10-foot high brick walls, a shed for Jemmy's pigeons and a hut for nature calls.
I was just
So, how are you coping then, Mr. Beckley?
Oh, not so bad. I'm getting by.
Well, that's what we like to hear.
I get a bit lonely without Emily.
Oh, I'm sure you do, Mr. Beckley. But before you know where you are, Mrs. Beckley will be home again, and everything will be fine.
I'd like to go and see her, but I don't get out much, and it's 2 buses, you know.
We should get someone to take you, Mr. Beckley. I'm sure that there's someone at church will be only too glad to.
Oh, that would be nice. Hey, have you got
Programmes,
a car?
write-ups,
yes,
all the crits, some good, some not so good, all contained in over 20 tomes, dedicated to a lifetime in performing arts. Colin called these amazing records What We Did and What They Said. Unfortunately, after Colin left us, there was found no place in Wigan to be home for this unique collection. However, I'm pleased to be able to tell you that the Dad's Army Museum in the Norfolk town of Thetford were delighted to house them, and more than that, put them on permanent display, as you see from these pictures. So if you're ever around those parts, pop in and have a look at them, and indeed the rest of this fascinating place. Tell them you're from Wigan, and you'll be made most welcome.
Comes from the pen of Neil Kane. It's entitled Balm Cakes in the Pantry. Our reader is Colin Bean.
Despite the claims of global warming, we become convinced that our early summer memories exist only in days where the sun blazed down, flags cracked, and seaside donkeys wore straw hats.
And this is where we said our final farewells to Colin Bean, Wigan man.
Thank you.